Hi, Florence Theriault here, and I'm here to show you some wonderful dolls that continue the great legend of the Hanna Butkus collection, the Dolls as Theater, featuring dolls from Italy, the Neapolitan dolls of the 17th, 18th, and 17th and 18th century. And this is part 2 of the collection. Many of you enjoyed the videos. Thank you very much for the first one, and they said it was so wonderful to see them in real life, so to speak, but to see them dimensionally so they could see the front and the back in different views and see the size proportion of them in relation to the other dolls. And so I'm really happy to share these with you. I learned so much from first section of the auction in having in presenting them to you, and I learned things from the questions you ask, and I learned things in doing the displays and the exhibition of them, what motivated the original makers of these dolls and what the purposes of them were. So when I did my videos for the first section, I kind of focused on the historical aspect of them. And this time I decided on these particular dolls, this part 2, that I would focus on things that I found that you were curious about and things that really motivated me. I always like to see dolls, from whatever medium they are, in a great tradition of doll making, worldwide doll making, where they fit in, where their chronology is with other types of dolls, if their style is completely different, if it's unusual, or you know, where their place would be in the pattern of doll history. One of the things that struck me, and that's how I want to begin my talk this time, one of the things that struck me when I was working with part 1 and now with part 2 in particular, I was struck with the hairstyles. And I saw how this was a really interesting study, not only in historical hairstyles and how it changed over the years, but also in the entire history of doll making. We come from these early dolls with their carved hair. We go into English carved wooden hair dolls, or with wigs. We go into French carved hair dolls. And then in particular, the biggest comparison are the German bisque dolls with sculpted hair that were made in the mid to late 1800s. So I thought, well, let's start off today and let me just show you some of the incredible hairstyles that I saw on these dolls as I was working on them. I have here a table of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I think 12 or 13 dolls that I'm showing here. Every one of them has a different hairstyle. So that it's so intriguing. And I will tell you, there are something like 250 dolls in this particular session. And of the women, there probably are over 100 different hairstyles, carved hairstyles that are featured. Even ones that seemingly are the same model. They'll all have little different variations. A tendril of curl will go one way, and then another curl will go another way, or there'll be different shading of the hair, different hair ornaments, this type of thing. So much variation was done in these dolls. But let's look at some of these. This particular one really intrigued me because when you first look at her, and by the way, I wanted to point out that one of the other things that I'm noticing, see, the more you get to handle these dolls and be exposed to them, the more you learn things. I became very intrigued with the ones that have the larger eyes, which this one does. Very deeply set eye sockets, and then the enamel eyes set in them, as opposed to some of the smaller ones where you really have to take a magnifying glass to determine if it is an enamel eye or a painted eye. But look at her, it's very, very definitely enamel eyes. Now, you look at her at first, very regal face, very distinctive features, mottled bosom, just a beautifully done work of art. And then you'll start to look at her hair. And let me show you, because this is great. I don't know what the reason for this is. It's entirely original, but it's 2-color. Now, is that hair that's 2-color, or did she have something like a little cap over the coiled bun at the back of her hair? Very, very definitely is hair. It's not a cap that you're seeing there, which is quite unusual. And then the red hairband at the top, and when you come around the side, you'll see how the sculpting continues. One of the other features that I learned to look at, and again, this might just be me making my subjective judgment, but the ones that were very, very deeply sculpted were ones that I intended to think probably were more from the hands of a particular sculptor, and I'm going to talk about that a bit more as we go along too. But that was a great doll with that really unusual hair color in the back, and I think I'm going to leave her with her hair this way with her back to you so you can continue to see it. Now this particular doll, and I'm not entirely sure of her background. She could be the Bavarian, she could be Genoese, or she could be Neapolitan. I'm not positive, and so I've called her Continental Wooden. But take a look at her. Now again, enamel eyes, which makes me think the Neapolitan. But then her whole body is wood, which makes me think the Genoese or Bavarian. So I don't know. More study needs to be done. But what I want you to see is her hair. Look at this when I turn her around. This is an unbelievable hairstyle. Look at the coiling of that hair in the back. Very, very intricate. I'm going to show it from the side again now so you can see it there. I mean, the wizardry of the sculpting that was done on this is absolutely extraordinary. And we trace it right back to our dolls that were made in the 1800s and even some into the 1900s. Beautifully done. We have another larger woman here. I'm going to leave, as we do them, I'll leave them with the back so you can continue to see the hairstyles. Now she's a really wonderful doll. I know Stuart sent out a Facebook page talking about her generously endowed other features, but I want to talk to you about her hair because I think it was great. Look at the forehead, little soft tendrils of curls kind of framing the face. But then if you turn her to the side, you see that her hair is very neatly waved back, and again, very deeply comb-marked. So you see the tendrils of all of the waving hair, and then you come around the back and you see this unusual looping of the hair. It's very tightly braided, and then it's coiled around and around, and a little red hair comb right in the middle. And then I'll continue turning her so you can see her on the other side as well. Very, very beautifully modeled hair and a very serious and wonderful face. She's quite lovely. Now we can, this one I'm going to bring over here to show you because, I'm going to turn her around because we've seen the back of her. And I want you to see her because this may be one of my favorites in the entire auction. Again, look at the eyes. Very, very large eyes, very deeply set enamel. It's almost like when this happens, the eye socket is so pronounced that the eyes fit in there beautifully, almost like they're deeply outlined. But again, now watch her when we turn her around. First of all, her head is posed in this very uplifting way, which is quite lovely. And then you see her hair is drawn smoothly, but there's feathering around her face. And then you see her ears are completely sculpted as well, and even pierced. And then we come to the back, and her hair is captured entirely, not just in a simple snood, a tight snood to the head, but you just know that she has very generous, long, full hair because the snood is like swept outward away from her face. I'm going to put her here because then I can stop holding her and you can see her a little more steadily. She's just really beautiful. Everything about her is just a wonderful expression. And let me show you the blue bow decorating the top of her hair. And once again, when you see the snood at the back, it's not just smooth, it's draped. It has this beautiful effect of draping. All of these wonderful artistic signs that make these dolls so very, very special. I love this girl right here. I'm going to move over to her because it's a very simple, drawn away from the face hairstyle. But then you look at it a little more closely on her face and you see all of that tiny little curls that come down and soften around her forehead, little feathering of curls, and take it away from being this very stern, formal hairstyle into something a little fanciful and just really pretty. And let me put her down, move her, so I can then turn her and you can see all sides of her hairstyle, because I want you to get to the back, and you're going to see once again, even for as small a doll as she is, her hair must have been down to her hips and then braided into this very, very narrow braid and then coiled around and around and around at the back of her head into this wonderful chignon. Just fabulous, just a fabulous, fabulous hairstyle. She also has, let me bring her around, I want you to look at her face, because very dignified, just a very beautiful, elegant face. Now this particular lady is, well, I mean, you have to start out from looking at her face first of all, because it is just such a wonderful face. Very eager, very charming, and it's rounded and plump, and the way of her hair is styled really seems to kind of perfectly fit that face. We have curls framing, combed away from her face, and then yet with little round curls, so it's not tightly combed away from her face, but little round curls. Let me just tip her back, perhaps you can get it better that way. And I'm going to show you the back of it. Decorated with a red hairband on the top, which circles back behind the ears. And then when we turn it around, we see that she has this very unusual placement of the bun. It's like comes in a double loop around there. So again, all of these wonderful hairstyles, not only a good study in history of the time of how people wore their hair, but also watching the chronology of doll making, how this sculpted hairstyle continued. And now in none of these am I discussing their costumes as we go along, but you really should pay great attention to their absolutely wonderful costumes and all of the accessories that they are holding as well. And then this doll, she again ranks as one of my favorites. I'm going to tip her back because she's leaning over and it's kind of hard to see her face. Very, very, she's worried. She's a little anxious. Their faces have such great expression. And then once again, she has the little tendrils of curls coming onto her forehead. But each one of these is different from the one you saw right before it. Completely, completely different approach. And then it's softly waved down in front of her ears. In this case, you can see it here. So you still see the tip of her ears, but not the complete ear. And then softly combed back and coiled into this lovely bun. Now I have a variation of her, and I want to put it down here and put the two girls side by side, because this one, I have never seen another one like this. This one has, at first glance, when you look at their faces, and they seem to be similar, and where the hair is combed onto the forehead seems to be similar at first, until you realize that this girl has very, very distinctive bangs. I did not ever see any of the other Neapolitans that had this hairstyle. Completely different. And then not coiled back into a bun, but indeed just waved back from the face and falling in loose curls onto her back. Very, very special kind of look on her. And here she is on the other side. Now let me hold her up so you can again see her from the face. When Hanna Butkus was selecting her dolls, and I think many of the collectors, the series collectors of Neapolitan dolls, I have found that that's what they're doing. They're looking for a model that they don't have. And so that is really, really important to see the different particular features. Now I have a few other people that I want to show you. We have here the wonderful Tambourine Player, and she also has a snood, but her snood is different than the one I showed you before with the flowing white snood right here. This is fitted more tightly to the head. It has almost like a little brim on the forehead, so it covers any of the forehead hair, which is different than the other one. It does show part of the ear. The snood fits behind the ear, but in the back, it completely captures the hair, but in the front, it's flatter to the head. So you can see the two snood ladies side by side here. And you can see the variations in them. Snood's a great hair covering. I think for bad hair day, we ought to get back into that. I think it would be a wonderful way to go. And now I want to move over here to show you two more. This is a kind of a snood, but not the same way as the others because it only really captures, oh, excuse me, don't drop your baby. It covers the back of the hair and it even has little hair falling down below it. So not really a snood so much as a fitted red cap. This beautiful smiling woman, I'm going to bring her around again. She's probably like the grandma because she has the gray hair and then the red bow sculpted on the front of her cap. Every single one of these you're going to find is exactly the different. When I was choosing the dolls to bring up to show you here today, I saw a couple, I said, hey, wait, though, that's the same model. I didn't even realize that. But then when I looked at them, there would be little variations. So yes, same models, but different styling, different painting make all the difference which one you choose. Particularly, I'm going to lay you down so you don't drop your baby again. Okay? And this little baby, by the way, you might as well look at it because it is, little toffling baby is so cute. You can turn him around and see his hair sculpted all the way around. We can do diversions, that's okay. And then I have one here that I wanted to show you because I think when I was doing her, I said, wow, her face is so different. It's so angular, almost like a heart-shaped face. Very, very different. Not the plump, rounded one, but totally different. And then let's look at her hairstyle. First, we'll turn her completely around, little by little, so you can see her. Very Grecian in its influence. And she not only has the top knot, which you find again in 1800s in the German milliner models, for example, that very popular top knot style, but she has these tendrils of curls that fall in front of the ears, behind the ears, and down the back of her neck, and are decorated with a sculpted and painted blue hair ribbon, which is intertwined all through the doll. And is absolutely a wonderful, wonderful piece.